Okay, where do I start? My name's Chukwuka Ikenna Ukoli. I'm from Imo State, Idato local government area. Grew up in Western, I grew up in Benin, I was born in Benin. Gone to school. All my schooling was done in Nigeria here. Went to school in Benin, Port Harcourt Secondary School. I went to University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Studied pure industrial chemistry. And I got into private business. Construction, exactly. I built homes and did landscape jobs for a living. And one of those trips brought me to Abuja in 2014. It's been a journey. One of the periods while I was working, I started to feel funny feelings, heartbeats uncontrolled, headaches, massive intake of water, lots of loss of appetite, and then I used to have funny backaches. Funny backaches at the time. My hips were always hurting, and maybe there are other things I can't remember now, but these things, were there for a period of time. At least I would say for I've been noticing for 2 to 3 years. I never took them to be serious. I never looked at it as something I needed to go get checked until I woke up one morning on my way to work and found out my feet were swollen. And then all of a sudden I couldn't climb the staircase. I couldn't climb the stairs. Going up and coming down was quite an ordeal, as in it took its toll on me, and I was like, why was I so tired? And a family member said, you seem to have legs like Auntie Adobe, who is she's a relative of mine. She's my dad's sister. She has large feet, my grandparents, from my grandmom's side, we could identify them with large feet. So, we made a joke about it, and I was like, oh, I can't be looking like my, maternal grandparents, and
So all this while you didn't know that?
I didn't know.
You were sick?
I didn't think I was sick. I just felt something was wrong somewhere, but it will pass. These two will pass. And we did all this within the period. One of them now said to me, I think you should go get tested. And I'm like, tested for what? What am I testing? Is it like I have HIV or something, you know? And he's like, no, just go and do a general body check. And then I decided to, I said, okay, where do I find, you know, do I go to a hospital or go to a medical lab? What do I do? And I'm like, okay, you've got a doctor to check upon me, who's a family friend, and she went like, okay, to give referrals for us to go somewhere and go get tested, and from then on, you know, what directions we needed to take.
Well, at this point,
so
have anybody, did they give you any kind of diagnosis, any inkling?
at that point in time, I mean, of course, not. He didn't have a name. We didn't know what it was. We just felt he's not okay. So probably he's had either too much water, he's had too much alcohol, or he's had too much food. It had to be too much of something. So it had to be my fault. And I was so busy trying to, you know, figure out what it was. And so I was directed to a diagnostic lab, and I went ahead and we started testing, and of course they spelled out the tests which needed to be done, and that was the first time I knew it had to do with something in my internal organs. They mentioned doing a kidney function test and a liver function test, and I skipped a bit. And that was when I felt and thought it was serious, you know. So I took it seriously, and from then on, this was May, June 2014, and I went to do the tests, and my readings went impressive, and the lab attendant indicated something. She said, oh, it's like you have a shrinking kidney. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, one of the kidneys is smaller than the other one. I'm like, oh, okay.
How did she come to that conclusion?
Well,
you did an ultrasound.
I did an ultrasound. I did x-rays. I did a lower abdominal scan, they called it then. I did urinalysis, I did, you know, blood tests and so on. But it was the lab attendant's comment that made me say, oh, okay, I think I have a problem. So I called my dad from the hospital, from the center. I called my mom. Okay, I called my mom just to say hello to her, because she was like, why would I call my dad and not want to talk to her? You know, so I just gisted with her a while, and I didn't say anything to her.
So all these things were in the lab. You hadn't gone to the hospital?
No, I hadn't been to a
hospital. So at what point did you now go to the hospital? That's what...
I had to take the result back to the doctor who had referred me to the lab. And she was like, well, she's a cardiologist. And she was like, well, the medicine has different arms. This is not the arm of medicine she deals with. In as much as I was running, you know, high blood pressure at the time, she indicated that I needed to see a nephrologist. And I couldn't pronounce the word the first time she said so, because it was long, it was odd. Nephrologist, what the heck is that, you know? And I couldn't sleep the first 2 nights because I had to go and see a doctor who's, you know, arm of medicine I can't even pronounce. With all the book that I have read, I was ashamed of myself, and I was also scared, you know. The fear was, okay, this is something really serious. Since you can't pronounce it, you've never heard it before, it's very serious. So maybe they're going to cut one leg, or going to cut an arm, or going to, you know, a lot of things were running through my mind. Then she now said, okay, I'm going to book an appointment with you with a friend of mine. I'll send you there. And that's the first time I came to Zenith. And when I came here, I met Dr. Latishe. And we spent 30 minutes in the office, nice pleasantries. We joked about a lot of things. And then he gave me a short short lecture. I told me, the first thing he said was, you can't blame yourself for any of the things that's happened to you. These are the reasons, most of it's either birth defect or, you know. And then he now went with all the history that was there. And after he was done, I had a sigh of relief, as in, okay, you're not cutting any arms, no legs are going, so I'm still going to be alive. And then when I told him, he laughed. And then he pulled his drawer open and said, well, I'm on my way going for a seminar outside the country. But from the last one here, just he was going to.
Just as HIV, malaria, diarrheal disease, cancer, they all have a voice. Kidney disease does not have a voice. It's a disease that is a respecter of no man, age-wise. When you talk to certain patients, they say, oh, I thought kidney disease, it's for the old. We have 11-year-olds. We have 10-year-olds, we have 16-year-olds, we have middle-aged individuals, we have older patients coming down with the disease. So it cuts across every age. And the sad part of it is that one of the major causes is hypertension and diabetes, and it's on the rise in our society. So I wanted to give this disease a voice. It is one of the most expensive diseases in the world. It's not just about Nigeria. And when I did my master's in the UK back in 2013, I did a research, and I found out that people could not even access hemodialysis. So this thing has been running through my mind, and I'm like, it's time for somebody to come out and give this disease a voice. Maybe somebody out there would listen. People will now begin to pull funds and see how they can help people. Because people are dying every day. And if they're not dying, it's affecting their families, because it's not a disease that you just suffer and it has a span when it ends. It's something that keeps going and you're spending money. It's pathetic. So because of that, I felt it's time to give this a voice, and not just a voice. Let people know the different facets of what people go through and possible solutions to this problem. Thank you. If you're all here in this morning, I just want you to tell me, so I'll just throw a question to you to lead you in the right direction. So if you can be as audible as possible, but don't shout. He says he's doing this because of me. He doesn't like to be on the team.
Okay, as a facets Mary, and I was diagnosed in 2009 while I was studying in a seminary school to be a priest of the Catholic Church.
I think you just answered this one. So let's ask this one. So just tell me, how do you feel physically, emotionally about this disease? Because it seems like it's been a while since you've been diagnosed 2009. That's a very long time.
Well, it hasn't been easy at first, but with time, you just have to get to understand what you have been into, and also try to bear whatever pain you are going through. Mm-hmm. Life is all about ups and downs. At first I asked why I had to be into this. I didn't really understand it because I thought that after transplant, it's just a matter of a transplant and everything is over. But unfortunately, the same 2009 I had a transplant. But unfortunately, I lost it in 2011. So I was back again to dialysis. Since then, both physically, emotionally, and even financially. I've been trying to battle with everything.
Where did you do this transplant? And what do you think caused the transplant to fail? Did the doctors tell you why?
I did the transplant in Apollo, that was in India. And after the transplant, they tried to do a biopsy, but nothing really was found to cause it. Though my blood pressure was high, but they were like thinking whether the BP caused the kidney failure or the kidney failure is causing my BP. So there wasn't any specific reason.
Okay. And did you give any option of that you can do a second transplant?
Actually, I had another one in 2012, and unfortunately it wasn't successful because immediately the body started fighting it. So when they checked, they found out that the antibody was high, so they immediately have to the next day do another surgery to remove the grafted kidney. Up to a time that I was planning for the third one, but due to finance and some other advice from other doctors, I couldn't go on with the third one. Since then, so that 2013 till now, I've been on dialysis.
Wow. So right now, what kind of medical help are you getting now? Just basically dialysis?
Just dialysis and the management.
Can you remember what caused your kidney disease in the first place? Because usually they tell you, okay, this is what has caused your kidney disease before you're journey to do the first transplant, the second transplant.
Like I said, nothing really. I was a strong guy. I was doing my normal thing until I started feeling down, and I thought it's something I could handle. Until it was I was in school, like I said, and at the time I couldn't help it anymore. I couldn't go for my games. I couldn't go for the labor. Couldn't go for my even studies. My legs started swollen, so I was sent home for more medical checks. So it was then that I was diagnosed. But previously, I was doing okay. I wasn't nothing really.
So at this point now, can you tell us what is going through your mind and what message you have for people out there that are suffering from this same disease?
First, I've come to terms because, like it's been a long battle all along. So I've come to terms with my condition. Understand that God made us and He molds and removes us. So the emotion, although once in a while it pains because the things you normally could do, you cannot do them any longer. And like I told you from the beginning, I was studying to be a priest. That dream is like shattered, but like I said, God molds and removes us. So I've seen the pains and also see the gains because life is all about tears and joy. So I'm moving on, also praying God to, hoping on God's miracle. Even as I'm still managing myself, I'm still hoping that, in as much as we don't know how it started, God still have the power to end it in one way or the other. So that's.
So now basically you're on dialysis. What is the financial? You've been on dialysis since 2013, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is 2016. How have you been able to manage financially to sustain dialysis?
Thanks to my family, friends, and especially my church. having served the church, and also that this happened to come along when I was also studying to be a priest. The church has been a big help. In short, up to now, they've been the one footing my bills and helping, even though sometimes it's not easy on them, but they've been very helpful. Many times, the finance is even the major challenge at this time, especially in the situation of the country. You know, when everybody is struggling for financially. But the church has been by me. They've stood by me. The first and second transplant were sponsored by them too. So up to this time, they've not let me down.
Okay, can you just give us, can you tell us some of the causes of kidney disease kidney disease in general, and is there a certain, does it affect, maybe, is it more prevalent in women, men, young children, older people?
Well, there are so many causes of kidney disease, but worldwide, hypertension and diabetes are the leading causes of kidney disease and kidney failure. There are other causes of kidney disease, like childhood infection, where you have that leads to chronic glomerulonephritis. Other causes like patients who have sickle cell nephropathy, and then kidney disease from drugs like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, herbal medications, and then people who are a little bit above, who are 60 and above, they have causes like an obstruction in their, for men for example, obstruction in the flow of urine, from an enlarged prostate, the prostate gland, and that one we call benign prostatic hypertrophy. So basically, and then of course people who have chronic infection of the urinary tract are also prone to having kidney disease. Yes. Then there are other causes that that is becoming very common also, like in HIV patients. They can also come down with kidney disease. Yes.
Okay, so is kidney disease preventable, and what is good kidney care?
Yeah, well, kidney disease is preventable by the general populace avoiding or doing some what we call lifestyle modification, where we have to avoid ingestion of herbs, avoid routine ingestion of herbal medications, ingestion of also use of things like bleaching creams and soap, and other lifestyle in terms of water intake. These are all things that we can do. And of course, hypertension, those who have hypertension should get their blood pressure controlled. Those with diabetes should visit their doctors regularly and make sure that their blood sugar is well controlled. I think this will go a long way in preventing chronic kidney disease. Others, like people should share their weight if they are obese. Cigarette smoking, we can also, if young people can stop smoking, that will go a long way. Drug abuse, these are all things that we know that on the rise, that we can attribute to the rise in the prevalence of the disease. Then we're also seeing very obese people now because of our lifestyle and what we eat. Less of junk and more of food will go a long way.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the impact of, because you've obviously seen a lot of cases, and can you tell us what the impact of kidney disease in recent time has been in Nigeria, in the Nigerian family, and in society as a whole?
If I start going into figures, and it's mind-boggling. But I will just say this. This is a disease that is going to paralyze this country if we do not sit up and get our act together. Because now people are getting more aware of what's going on. Although I think the awareness, there's still a whole lot of gap, which I'm hoping that this documentary would be able to fill some of that gap. But it's a disease that is paralyzing this country. Financially, physically, mentally. You're supposed to do dialysis. It's recommended that patients do dialysis 3 times in a week. Now take for example someone that is working, is feeding his family, and comes for dialysis. And each session lasts between 3 to 4 hours. So if you're going to work 9 hours in a day, you've taken out 4 hours of one day just to do dialysis. Then before you recover from the whole dialysis process, you're set to do another dialysis session. So at the end of the day, in that whole week, you will not be productive. And then you're supposed to fend for your family. If I want to talk as a doctor, I'll just keep giving you figures and statistics and all that. But really, the average man does not understand statistics. He doesn't understand numbers. What he understands is the psychological effect it has on his pockets, on his family, on the people around him, on his job. He will ask the doctor, can I still work? Can I still provide for my family? Those are the real pertinent questions that they'll be asking you. Nobody's interested in numbers. You give numbers to health institutions or like the WHO or with all those big organizations, but to the layman, they're not interested in statistics, they're not interested in numbers. So it is a disease that is going to paralyze this. We already have a myriad of problems as Nigerians, but I can tell you that when there is health, there is wealth. And so we need to put our acts together and focus on things that are actually very important. And I think kidney disease is a disease that we should begin to pay more attention to. I'm not saying every other disease is not important, but because of the nature of this disease and how expensive it is, we should begin to pay more attention to this disease.
Well, in the first place, my name is John Edoja Onema. I'm a legal practitioner by profession, and I practice here in Abuja. I'm based here in Abuja. My son has been having dialysis here for over 2 years now as a result of kidney issues, and the matter started as far back as 2013. He woke up one morning on 28th of December 2013, and we saw that his face was puffed up. We thought that, in fact, his siblings were making jest of him, that he must have taken too much of Christmas rice, on 28th of December, and it was a few days after Christmas. So their thinking was that he had taken too much of Christmas rice. That was why his face had puffed up. So we went to Asokoro Hospital, and that day when they checked his BP, after the work resumed actually, when they checked his BP, it was 230/180. In fact, the nurse that checked him said since she started work as a nurse, she had not seen a child of that age having that kind of blood pressure. By the way, my son, as at that time, was 13 years, but he's 16 years old now. So from there, we were rushed to Asokoro Hospital. From there, we went to Asokoro Hospital and, National Hospital. And after the diagnosis, they came down with that terrible verdict that it was a chronic kidney disease. And so the battle started since that day up to now. We are still in it.
Okay. Can you, in your words, just describe, I know it can be easy, but can you describe what it feels like as a parent who has a son with such an ailment? How has it affected you as a parent, emotionally, for you and your wife, and the entire family as well?
in terms of how it affects or how it's affected me, I should say this is the greatest challenge I've had in my entire life. By the grace of God, I'm going to 53 years now. But I've never had anything that has challenged me like this. Never. This is the greatest challenge I've ever had in my lifetime. And indeed, it has affected me in virtually both. It has affected both emotionally, even physically. I thank God that now I can speak. In those years back, in 2013, 2014 in particular, I wouldn't be able to speak with anybody when it comes to his matter, before I burst into tears. But you know, they say time is a great healer of wounds. After some time, we are trying to cope up with the situation, and so that's why I'm even able to talk now. It has been a very difficult time. It's a very challenging time indeed, financially, emotionally, and even my job. Most of the time, I won't be able to go to work because of having to run around for some buy drugs. Some of the drugs that may not be readily available. You have to run around to look to get them and all that. It has been really it's tormenting, I should say. It's tormenting. It's not something that one to which is enemy. This disease is not something that one to which is enemy. But it's just that when it has come, as a man, you try to brace up. That is the situation. In terms of how it has affected my life, virtually in all aspects, I should say. In fact, it came to a point, I had to hand over my cases to my friends to handle for me, so that I don't go and cause harm or do injustice to people's cases, because even in the practice, you have to be mentally stable to be able to present your client's case in court. And so when you're emotionally disturbed, you are not, we are called advocates. For you to be able to stand before for the others, you yourself have to be on a good standing. So the sickness as such has affected me in such a way that I have not been in good standing. I have to share my cases to some of my friends to help me handle, especially the ones that involve a lot of controversies and all that. So it has not been easy. And if I want to talk of area of finance, that would even, maybe it's another chapter entirely if I have to go that. But in terms of, it's affected my life, every aspect of my life, I should tell you. And even spiritually, at times you begin to ask yourself, what is it? Because I will say, God, I'm only a caretaker of this boy. I'm just only a caretaker. You are the one that brought this boy to life. Can I love him more than you? It's not possible. And we look into the scriptures and all the promises that you are giving us. Why would this one still remain? So that is, even spiritually, I have to even ask God some questions and all that. But who will give you the answer? So we still believe in God that He will do it in His own time. So that's the situation.
Okay, my name is Ezinne Nena Mbabu, Eziada of Ubo, in Imo State. I'm retired immigration officer. I retired as an acting deputy director of immigration 3 years ago. So for now, I'm a pensioner and a senior citizen coping with diabetes.
Okay, when were you diagnosed of kidney disease and the build-up? Tell us about when you were diagnosed and what happened.
Okay, in 2007, I noticed I was putting on weight. Uniform service, we're used to morning runs, exercises and all. Despite that, I realized I was still putting on weight. People were saying, you're putting on weight, you're putting on weight. I said, well, I don't know what to do because I've been doing the right things, what I'm supposed to do. I must confess, I knew little or nothing about conversion of sugar and all that because I'm not a science person. So in 2012, I was based in Benin then. I was coming to Abuja, for a promotion interview. So along the way, I realized that every 10 minutes, I'll ask the driver to stop. I wanted to ease myself. I said, but I didn't take so much water. What's this? So by the time from Benin to Abuja, by the time we got to Abuja, we stopped over 15 times. So, and by then, I was feeling weak and tired. So actually, by the time I got to Gwagwalada, where the interview took place, I was too tired to sit. So they had to take me to an office to lie down. So I managed the interview. Even the panel members were sorry. They said, if we had known, then we would have called you. So from there, I went straight to the hospital. So in the hospital, the doctor, not this one, my family hospital, he said, so the doctor now told me, Madam, you have diabetes. I said, diabetes? She said, yes. So, and I was due to travel 3 days after that. So we did all the tests. He said, the place I was admitted. So after 4 days, I told him I was due to travel. So they gave me drugs and wanted to teach me how to use, the pen, the injections. I said, no, I'm wary of injections. Just give me tabs, I'll manage. So that was how it happened. I traveled. So then, I've been taking the drugs, but I didn't take it, serious. I didn't take it as a serious ailment. So I came back in Benin. I noticed that sometimes I'll be very weak. Sometimes, so I'll go to a doctor, they'll give me drugs. So that's the way I was carrying on until I think was it 2 years ago. I came here last year. 2 years ago, I went to the US in the summer. So I fell sick. So I went to my doctor there. He said, your kidney is not so good, So he said, well, since you don't live here, when you get home, you go see your medic. So he gave me drugs and all that. I said, okay. So I came back. I went to see the doctor. He told me the percentage, I don't know the percentage. I said, but it could be managed. So that's how we were managing it until last year when I traveled again. I woke up one morning, I was watching the telly. So luckily, my kid sister in whose house I was, she's a medical doctor too, so she was with me. So I wanted to say something. I found myself slurring, like, oh. She said, Nana, what is this? What is this? I said, oh. He said, oh, yeah. She said, hospital. I said, no, I'm she said, hospital. So that's how I found myself in Memorial Hermann in Houston. They did all the tests. My sugar level was so low. In fact, they gave me a small cup of, I don't know whether it was just sugar with a little orange. I was admitted. I was there for 3-4 days. They advised me to, to make arrangements for transplant. So I said, no, I better get home. And my sister believes that Nigerian doctors are equal to this, that it's just that they don't have the equipment, So some of our friends came around and said, you can't go. My sister said, no, I'm a doctor, but I prefer Nigerian treatment, So, my dear, I found myself on a wheelchair at the airport. So I called the doctor here then. So he said, if you come back, come straight to the hospital. So when I got home, we went to the hospital there. But that hospital is mainly for urinalysis. So the doctor said, the doctor that told me before that my kidney was giving way told me that it's almost zero, So it was there, a nurse told me that there's a kidney center, that's where it's supposed to go. So we checked my weight, it was 168 kg. So we got here about 1 a.m. the night. They brought me here. She said, no, you can't stay here anymore. So they brought me here. That's how I found myself here. So that same early morning, they did a series of tests. I was admitted. Then the next day, the MD and the team of doctors came, did their own tests and everything, and placed me on dialysis. So I was due for surgery. I was scouting for donor and all that. And then they had the Herculean task of bringing me down, bringing my weight down from Mama Calabar to the normal. So, as God will have it, you know, they succeeded. So, in fact, I joked, I told the MD, I said, please, when I'm out of here, you'll give me the name of the medicine you used to bring me down. So he said, no, women, in fact, women are the last group of people that should know about this drug. He said, you know, so anyway, that's how I found myself here, and by God's grace, and because it's very necessary to say this, I say it everywhere. You know, when you see a good thing, it's good to let people know. You know, when you're not well, it's not just the medicine, the attention and the behavior, the attention of the staff, it goes a long way. I noticed that here. You know, the nurses will come around, whether they're assigned to you or not, they'll come around, they'll ask you how you are, they'll tell you to be all right. Like, I don't like injections. So when they come, I say, so some of them will put their hand behind their back. I said, no, nurse, let me see your right hand. They said, no, mommy, it's okay. I said, it's not okay. Let me see your, you know. So they said, mommy, it's okay. You need it. Don't worry. We want you to be well. Anyway, that's how we moved on. And, you know, when you see somebody cares about you more than you care for yourself. So in fact, one of the doctors, that said, if you don't cooperate, when it's my turn to take blood from you, I'll take it from your eyes. You know. So I started calling him Dr. What do you call Dr. What's the Dracula? You know. So that's the atmosphere. The atmosphere was very nice, very friendly, and it's as if you're in your own house, your family, surrounded by family. So even prior to the surgery, the team, the nurses that would take care of us in intensive care, they came around, introduced themselves. You know, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect that kind of behavior or attitude from anywhere in Nigeria. You know, introduce themselves. This one will take care of you this time. This is the supervisor. You know, it was overwhelming. So I didn't realize I was going in for a major surgery. It was all good, you know, friendly, the night of the surgery. And then we went in for surgery. And then I opened my eyes and I saw myself in intensive care, you know. And like I said, the environment, the attitude and everything, you know, helped to see me through. So November 7th was 1 year that I did the surgery. And because of the inner satisfaction and the feeling of well-being that I got, you know, and I made up my mind, you know, I said, I'm going to keep this size. You know, I found that extra happiness. You now know that when you're doing the right thing, you know, you feel good inside and you're happy. So I walk 2 times. I'm supposed to maybe walk 30 minutes, but in the morning I walk 45 minutes, in the evening I walk 45 minutes, even when I was abroad, you know. So that's how it's been, and by God's grace, no adverse effect and no extra complaints. In fact, no complaints at all. It's just that I came for checkup. You know, that's what we've been doing, and that's how it's been. You know, but like as regards this documentary, I appreciate it when she told me. I said it would be my pleasure to talk about diabetes. You know, because ignorance, you know, has done a lot of damage to our society. You can imagine somebody like me saying, if I could be unaware. So you can imagine down the line, the rural areas, you know, the damage is doing. So this is a very, very good thing. It's a very, very good idea in the right direction. And I'm quite happy to be associated with this project.
I understand that there are only two possible options when you have kidney disease, which are dialysis and transplants.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
Okay.
There are other things that people are looking at, but at the moment, worldwide, those are the two methods of treating this disease. People are looking at stem cell and an artificial kidney. These are the things that the science world is looking at. But for now, the two reliable ways of treating the disease is via kidney transplant or dialysis. And then you were talking about causes of, signs and symptoms of kidney disease. Well, there could be no, for some people in early stage of the disease, they don't have any, they don't present with any symptom or sign, and that's why we say that the overt disease is just the tip of the iceberg of the covered disease. In other words, if you know what an iceberg looks like, the top of it are the people who are in end stage, and they are the ones we see in the hospital. The covered disease is the iceberg down there that nobody knows or nobody sees, and so that's how kidney disease is. It's just a tip of the iceberg. So the early stages of the disease, you may not have any symptom, so they don't come to the hospital. Nothing, but as time goes on, you may now find them with some body swelling, either on the face or on the leg, Then some will tell you they feel tired easily. I've noticed that my urine foams when I'm weeing, something like that. And then also you may find people come down with, by the time they are getting to the hospital, your blood pressure is very high, and then as it progresses, you start having symptoms like vomiting, headaches, hiccups, body itching, and then the general malaise. So that's when you now begin to know that yes, there's a problem with the kidney. So for the early stages of the disease, patients may have no symptom, and so they don't come to the hospital. But as the disease progresses, then they begin to manifest some of these symptoms and signs that I've talked about.
So if a patient comes in, at the earlier stages of the kidney disease, is it treatable?
Yes, and that's what we advocate. We talk about people having a very we should have a health-seeking behavior where people should not only go to the hospital when they are ill. So if we pick this disease early, we can slow down the progression of the disease or halt the progression of the disease. There are a lot of things that we can do, and that's why we advocate that people should get to the hospital so that this disease can be picked early and treated, and so we can actually stop the progression if we pick it early. So unfortunately in our environment, majority of the patients we see are already in end stage.
Challenges, quite a lot of challenges, but the ones that I have encountered, first on my list will be finances. It's a lot for a kidney patient in terms of dialysis, in terms of injections that they receive. Some of them have to have blood transfusion. And then it's not just kidney disease they are battling with. They have other comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, HIV, so there's a whole lot of other things. And these other diseases have medication, so they have to pay for those medications. Another challenge is facilities. You find people coming. I am in Abuja, although I don't. When I used to work in the kidney center, I know that a lot of people come from other parts of Nigeria. You have people coming from Sokoto, you have people coming from the east, you have people coming even from Lagos. So it tells you that the what's it called now? The facilities are not readily available. You have centers where they don't have dialysis machines, and even they have 2 or 3 or 4 machines, and they have maybe like 10 patients for dialysis, and each dialysis session is 4 hours. So you can imagine. So those are some of the challenges, and then some of these patients want to actually have family support. It's not a disease you want to go by yourself. I actually currently have a patient in Lagos who we want to enroll in the whole docu-series. She's been abandoned by her family. In fact, when they sent me her picture, I'm not supposed to be emotional. Yes, as a doctor, you have to keep your emotions in and always, but when they showed me her picture, I imagined what she was like before the disease, because I could see that she's a lady, very bubbly, but the disease has, knocked her down. I have a friend who her mom had chronic kidney disease, And although the mom was working in a place where it was her organization that was paying for her dialysis and all that, but still, when my friend showed me her mom's picture before and after, when she had chronic kidney disease, I couldn't relate the two. She was a shadow of herself. So what am I saying? That at some point, some family members just abandon you. Sometimes, because of the lack of awareness, they think probably maybe you have vexed one god in the village or one thing like that, and so everybody abandons you. So another challenge is people don't support their family, and so they even deteriorate faster than they ought to, and awareness. There's really lack of awareness. People don't know about it, don't even know. I think one other reason why I wanted to do this documentary is to spread the word and tell people that it can be prevented. I'm more interested in preventive medicine, because once you have the disease, you have the disease. There's nothing anybody can do. You either continue dialysis or you decide to do transplant. But I'm an advocate for preventive medicine. So you have to look at your lifestyle. You have to, people have history of family history of diabetes and hypertension, so you have to now take extra caution as an individual. So the awareness is very key. So I'm hoping that one of these days we'll have maybe a kidney disease walk, getting people aware, letting people know there are certain things that you cannot do. Like, in fact, there's something I've come to notice, especially in Nigeria. We take a lot of herbal medications, a lot, and that is one of the causes of kidney disease. I had a man that came in one time. I don't know, he took a concoction of things. He said he wanted to cleanse his body, and instead there was blood in his pee. And thank God the specialist caught the damage early. He had an acute kidney shutdown, so he had to do dialysis to actually get out all the toxins that he had took and all that. And you see a lot of people selling these things on the road, and people just drink it. There's no no regulatory body, nothing. So awareness is important. When people know the things that can cause this disease, they stay away from it. Just the way people have been talking about HIV, wear a condom, abstinence, and stuff like that. It's time for us to take that kind of campaign on kidney disease as well, so that people will know what to look out for. And the thing about this is that there's no symptoms. When you begin to show symptoms, your kidney is damaged. So the most important thing is awareness. Get people to know. You will be very shocked. Even people that are well-read, learned people, they don't really know about this disease. Then you can imagine those people that are in the lower class and middle class. So it is important for us to let people know what this is about and how to prevent it, so that you don't even get in that place where you're now thinking of, okay, who is going to help me finance my dialysis, who's going to help me pay for my transplant, who's going to help me pay for my medications and stuff like that. So yes.
My name is Dickens Ekong Udoikon. I'm 50 years old. I'm in the profession of human resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us when you were diagnosed with kidney disease, and can you just briefly tell us a build-up up until you were diagnosed?
Okay. If I went through the causes of having a kidney disease, most apparently I would say I am not that kind of a candidate. It began when I went to church on Easter Sunday. My legs became very weak. I couldn't even stand. So throughout the service I was sitting all through. Then suddenly the next day, as I finished still so weak, let me get to the hospital. I regularly visit the hospital actually. And this day when I visited the hospital, the doctor told me that, Kai, you're on borderline hypertensive. So what do you mean by that? so you're on the borderline. I said, okay, what do I do? So you have to conduct several tests and whatever. Now he now told me that I'm having, surprisingly, what's it called? That's malaria. There's malaria. Say I'm having. It's okay. I couldn't sleep for 2 days. My eyes were open. I was afraid, and I was longing for sleep. The condition became so bad. Then they transferred me to another hospital. From my time, I got to another place. I won't mention the hospital. Then finally, I got to. Can I mention the name? No. I got to this place. Then that was when they diagnosed me that I'm having kidney disease.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell us how it affected your personal life, your work, your physical and emotional balance?
Throughout that period, I wasn't going to work. I was unable to go to work. During the period of my crisis, I wasn't able to go to work. Until I went through the dialysis process, I was still not able to go to work. It was a very tough one for me, honestly. Very tough. It's like you cannot wish that kind of sickness to even your worst enemy. You know. So, but went through some challenges during that period, and really challenges, you know. Then, of course, certainly, I got over it until when the transplant was done.
Okay. Was it difficult getting it done? I know your brother. Was available, but was that the first option? What were some of the challenges maybe you went through before?
The challenges was great. You know, having a donor was a very difficult. It's a very difficult thing. I'll tell you the truth. The first time is we approached somebody to donate for us, or for me actually. But when I say for us, because I am with a lot of my family members were there. But for me, it was a very difficult thing to do until my younger brother came on the line to rescue the situation. Because it was some sacrificial thing he did, and I couldn't imagine that he can do. And so I appreciate him.
Okay, so after your transplant, how has life improved? Are you able to do some of the things you were not? How has life improved generally?
Okay, with all the rules, regulations that were given to us, especially me myself, before the transplant, we were educated, we were given some form of enlightenment of how life will be after transplant. You must maintain the rules and regulations, do all the hygienic things that you're supposed to do, eat the food that's recommended for you. Then the rate of recovery was so high, and I think that now I can do whatever any normal. I'm still back to my old self walking, you know, and the performance is even higher now.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we'll just come to you now.
Am I true?
Yes, you're true, sir. But you can just hold on, please.
Okay,
Can you just hold on, please? Okay, sir. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us your age and your relationship with the recipients.
My name is Emma Ekong. I'm 31, and I am a donor to my brother Ekong Dickens.
Okay. Can you briefly tell us how you received the news of your brother's ailment? And you know, donating a kidney is not something that it's a very noble thing to do. What were some of the things that went through your mind when you heard the news and when you decided to donate your kidney to your brother?
I did not just hear the news, I was part of it. We stayed, we went through different hospitals, and the situation was really critical. Sometimes he faints on the way or something like that, and there are sometimes that he can't sleep for like 3 days and all that. Seeing all that and everything that he is going through, I don't think it's that too hard a decision to make, because definitely you're part of the process. You feel what he's going through and all that. So it wasn't really that too this thing, but the fear of doing it. What happens to me? What happens to my family? Will I die? And all that. What becomes of my new lifestyle and all that, But generally, the greater goal outweighs all the fears.
The government has a very major role to play in this. One, the government needs to do more in terms of sensitization, in terms of getting the general public aware of the risk factors of kidney disease, how to prevent the disease, because in this environment, health resources are scarce. Majority of the government in Africa still don't get to the target in terms of recommendation on what chunk of our budget should be dedicated to healthcare. So prevention is the way forward, and the only way government can do this is by via sensitization, getting Nigerians to know that look, there is a rise of this disease, in prevalence of the disease, and we should all join hands and prevent. Various countries now are doing a lot about trying to have a population that is not obese, for example, cutting down on smoking and the rest of other risk factors that I've mentioned.
Why is there an increasing prevalence of CKD in Nigeria, and how can that be checked?
It's not just prevalent, even the incidence of CKD is on the rise. And I think the one word I can use is our lifestyle. We need to begin to check our lifestyle. The rate of obesity is getting higher. Even child obesity is getting higher. Parents are no more giving kids that nutritious food. We're more into fast food. We're more into junk. People are living sedentary life. What do I mean by sedentary lifestyle? From your car to the office, from your office to the car. Nobody walks again. There's no form of exercise. The rate of alcohol consumption is to the roof. The rate of cigarette smoking is not here. You see teenagers trying all kinds of things, and then by the time they reach 30, 31, they are having kidney disease. So our lifestyle needs to change. There has to be lifestyle modification. It is very important. And then if you have family history of, if you have patients that have hypertension, you need to watch yourself. You need to go and check yourself, regular checkup, so that if there's any red flag, it can be addressed immediately. Annual checkups. In fact, a lot of health maintenance organizations now do annual checkups for their clients. So you walk into a hospital, just do an annual checkup. Make sure kidneys are fine, everything is okay. So annual checkup, we need to be more health oriented going to the hospital. Usually our tradition in Nigeria is when it is very bad, you've tried everything, you've gone to the church, you've done self-medication and everything, nothing is working. That's where you remember there's a hospital. And by then, you expect the doctor to perform a miracle. So it is very important that we take our health seriously. We do our annual checkup, lifestyle modifications, we stop all those sedentary life. Even moderation. Moderation basically is the word. Moderation is the word. If you have a teenager that has started drinking excessively, what do you expect his life to be when he's in his 30s? Or you see a teenager that has been smoking, what do you expect his life to be in his 30s? Or you have a child that is obese, what do you expect his life to be in his 20s and his 30s? So that's why you're even seeing people coming down with this disease even very early, So yeah, lifestyle modifications, I can't overemphasize that enough. Lifestyle modification, and then we need our doctors need to begin to educate patients. So a patient comes in and then you see signs, your sugar is high, your blood pressure is high. Begin to educate the patient. Sometimes they just write medications and just give the patients to go on their way, but it's also nice for us to educate patients, and all that. So it's very important, and I think we should take it to schools as well. So like I said, it cannot be overemphasized. Lifestyle modification, health awareness, health education programs, and like for example, like this documentary, for example, I hope it will get to the right ears, and hopefully a change will happen. Sorry, sir, can you tell me your name, your age, and basically just tell me when you were diagnosed of this disease, and before then, what you actually knew about this disease?
My name is Mueme Christopher. It's my birthday, my 47th birthday today.
Yay! Happy birthday!
Thank you. What I used to know about kidney challenges, or maybe what I used to think of when I was growing up, was that it was a disease of the rich and and the elderly.
Okay.
I never knew somebody in my class or in the lower realm of the society could have kidney challenge. You know, those days we used to hear people flying abroad to go and handle kidney challenges and all that. So we thought it was just those who had money and, you know, the elderly then too. But I was really shocked when I was diagnosed with kidney challenges. Yeah. And this was diagnosed about 2 years ago, 2014. Actually, my bank runs every year. There's a health check on all the staff of my place of work, and I did that in 2014. I guess that was mid 2014, and the doctor then, what he first told me, what the doctor told me was that there was sugar in my urine, you know, and I needed to see a specialist so that they can advise me better. Actually, this was discovered in Onitsha, where I was working in the UBA, and then I was referred to the Federal Medical Center in Asaba to be for a follow-up with another doctor, a nephrologist specifically. So, but when I got there, ran a series of tests, and at that point, the doctor now told me that it was a kidney, that had a relationship with kidney challenge, you know. So they tried to see what they could do to find out what really was the problem. Now, I had a couple of scans at the initial stage, and at the end of it, the 4 scans I had, each of them, it was recommended that I carried out an IVU test, you know. So eventually I had to go through an IVU. But unfortunately, 2 times I tried IVU there, I reacted seriously. It affected my health, it affected my work, my social being and everything, you know. And that was when it began to dawn on me that I was really down with a serious challenge. But Federal Medical Center could not actually address the issue when I reacted to the IVU, contrast or whatever. And so I was rushed to the University of Benin Teaching Hospital by my younger brother. No, this is a priest, he's a Catholic priest. And he got me to UBTH. And at UBTH it was wonderful because the doctors were able to restore what had gone wrong, you know. Somehow it affected my, maybe, I don't know if it was my brain or something. I wasn't coordinating very well. I couldn't, I had problems with reasoning and all that kind of talk. Hallucination, generally, I think. But UBTH was able to arrest it. Okay? That was at the accident and emergency ward. After which I went back to work, and then it was normal. But then I had to be consulting with the doctors there, a urologist specifically. I wasn't actually referred to a nephrologist there at that point in time. I was referred to a urologist who looked at me and checked my tests and carried out more tests and recommended a nephrectomy of my right kidney. But on a second thought, because before now, actually, I never thought that you could carry out a kidney transplant in Nigeria. I never knew of it. I never heard of it anyway from anybody. Because all we knew right from when we were growing up was that people went abroad to go and treat such illnesses, and we didn't have any hospital that could handle it in Nigeria. And so,
go ahead. Or we can talk from moments. No, take it. You don't worry, you can interrupt. It's fine.
Sir? Okay, sir. You're doing a wonderful job.
So, I didn't know about Zenith Medical Center. So I just for want of second opinion, my cousin went went through the internet and browsed for any hospital that could handle kidney challenges, and came up with one of the hospitals in Dubai. That was Canadian Specialist Hospital, and there was a urologist there who was consulted, and he promised, having seen my checks, my results, he thought he could salvage the situation and invited me to come over. So by April 2015, I went to Dubai and I met with the urologist who referred me also to a nuclear lab there, apparently to check the strength of the kidneys, what was left of them, and to know what to do. But when I carried out the test there, my right kidney was having 26% left, and the left was having like 73 left. And but the doctor said he couldn't salvage the situation, that the damage was serious, and actually what I was diagnosed of initially was hydronephrosis. So when he saw that, he said he thought it was no point, leaving out the kidney, so he had to do nephrectomy again. Nephrectomy was advised in Benin. Again, he advised on nephrectomy. So when I got that, I thought, well, if it was nephrectomy that was the last option, why not? So we went ahead and carried out the nephrectomy, which was okay. It went well. And in 3 days, I was up from the bed, could move around, so I thought everything was okay. And he actually told me that I could survive on one kidney. And lots of people survive on one kidney all over the world, So that what he had done was just to remove that so that it didn't affect the second. So I said, fine, I agree with him, no arguments. And then I went about my job. I came back to Nigeria, went about my job, working and all that. So, but somehow, sometime in January of 2015, I took ill. I was rushed to the hospital. I didn't know what happened. So apparently I had gone blank and I was rushed. Okay. I found myself in the hospital and I was treated fine. I was discharged. That was a private hospital. No, that was at UBTH this time. Sometime around April, I guess, I had another attack. Again, I went back to the hospital and was treated. But around June, it was like I wasn't just myself somehow. I'm talking about 2015 now. And I was taken to the hospital. And the doctor said, when I gained consciousness, that they needed to put me on dialysis. But he didn't want, he said he didn't want to push me into dialysis because he wanted to watch me to see if I really needed dialysis or not.
He was trying to salvage your
Yes, whether I really needed the dialysis or not. Now this is one Dr. Erimona at UBTH, he's a nephrologist too. So he was watching to see if I really needed dialysis.
So at what point did you start dialysis?
So it was this year, in June. I wasn't feeling very strong. I felt somehow kind of going blank sometimes when I was walking and doing some things. I didn't just feel coordinated. I took myself to the hospital. Actually, I carried out a test, a creatinine test, and I saw it was very high.
That's when you now...
Yeah, I now went to this hospital, this private hospital, because EBTH was on strike, and I was admitted, and then the doctor there said you needed to go for dialysis. So at that point, I started dialyzing in June. And then when I finished and I came out, while I was in the hospital, somebody mentioned to my wife about going over to India for kidney transplant and all that.
But did the doctor at that time talk about transplants?
Yes, they talked about it, that was the ultimate treatment for it.
Okay.
Yes, I was always told that was the ultimate.
After you have been diagnosed?
Yes. But this June, the June of this 2016, was when I was first introduced into dialysis. Okay? Because the doctor thought the creatinine level was very high and all the parameters that were taken were really indicating that I needed dialysis. So at that point I was taken to the dialysis center and I started it. Just when I came out, somebody had told my wife while we were in the hospital that there was a doctor. He didn't give the doctor's name, but he just gave the doctor's number. The doctor is in Nigeria here, and she talked to the doctor, but not to let anybody from the hospital know that he had given out this number. Because if they knew, that means maybe the person was trying to shift things away. Because somebody had already told the doctor, that my wife, that if you get that you can get to India and do this. But we eventually found out that the person that referred my wife to India, they have their own cuts from the doctors in India when they refer somebody and all that. So this person that said, don't tell these doctors that that I gave you this number. So when my wife called me, because she is in Asaba, I work in Benin now. Eventually I had to even transfer from Onitsha to Benin because of my health. So I now picked up the number and called, because that June I had already taken my leave. I called the number and the doctor picked up and I asked, I want to know who this person is. Somebody gave this number and said it's a kidney center and you treat transplant, you do transplant and all that. He said, yes, I will do it. We do transplant. I didn't feel convinced because I just didn't believe that we had a center like this in Nigeria. I wasn't convinced.
At the back of your head, you always thought that this
it has to be abroad.
Outside.
It has to be abroad. That was my orientation, my thought, and my knowledge about it. So when he said they had it, I said, okay, where are you? He said in Abuja, Gariki 2. I said, well, I don't know Abuja very well right now. But he said he would send me the text, the address and all that. I said, fine. Meanwhile, a friend of mine had referred me to another Indian hospital here in Abuja. There's a big hospital in Abuja here. I can't remember the name now, but my friend referred me there and said they could handle it. So when I got there, but those people said they don't do the transplant here. They refer the people to India, but carry out all these tests and all that. So at that point, I called the doctor here who said, yes, Zenith Medical Center kidney center does it. So since I was on leave, I said, okay, but I'd like to come and see, at least for myself, because I just wanted to be sure. So the next day, we talked on Monday. By Tuesday morning, I was on my way to Abuja. I was in Abuja. Came here, went to that first hospital, nothing. That's when I discovered the refer. So now I came here to check. And I saw Dr. Latishe, who introduced himself. I said, I called you from Benin, and this is why I tried to make inquiries, and this is what I've done. This is what I want to know. So he told me in confidence, he told me that they do it, that Zenith Medical and Kidney Center carries out transplants every month. I was shocked when he said that. He said, I never heard of you, I never knew about you. He said, well, we don't publicize ourselves, people publicize for us and all that. He said, but even at that, it should have been a common knowledge that there is a center like this in Nigeria. But I didn't even know about you. That if I had known, maybe I wouldn't have gone to Dubai, as at last year. And I said, well, you're here now. What do we do? And I told him my own side of the story, everything, all the tests and everything I've carried out, even the ones at Dubai, the results from Dubai and all that, I showed him. Well, yes, see, at that point though, what shocked me was that he said that if I had seen him before I went to Dubai, he would have done a better job than in Dubai. I was wondering, I said, why? How do you mean? So he not told me something about stents, fixing his stent in the kidney to extend the life of the kidney or something. That they do all that here in Nigeria. That for me to have 26% and it was removed, that was an anomaly. That the average cut-off point for bad kidney is 10%. And you cannot salvage less than 10%. But as for 10% off, you can salvage. At that point, I was depressed. I said, how? So that means Dubai didn't do a very good job, and they didn't, apparently they didn't carry out enough tests that I'm doing right now. Like right now, I've done a cystoscopy to find out that the blockade is still there. Okay? And he explained that because the blockade was not removed after that first nephrectomy, it affected the second kidney. And that's why I was having all these challenges. And I felt very disappointed because I thought, they had done a good job over there. And then it just pissed me off that we could have such knowledge bank in Nigeria, and yet, they're not noticed, and we don't even the government doesn't encourage things like this. Because I thought if a private hospital like Zenith Medical and Kidney Center could carry out transplant, then what are teaching hospitals in Nigeria doing? Don't you have nephrologists in the teaching hospitals? We do have them. But they are just there. What are they doing? Nothing. The hospital management is not providing just what they should use for things like this. We don't have to go abroad to do all of this. And if we had machines in teaching hospitals, it will cost to be a lot reduced. And then you can even do it. I even hear that some governments pay for their own citizens' dialysis and even the transplants. But it's not so in Nigeria. So when I heard his own side of it, his thoughts about the whole thing, I was really taken aback. But I said, well, we have to move forward. And so we're working towards the transplant. Hopefully, I should be in the hospital on admission by Thursday. And by Monday, by God's grace, I should have a transplant. Successful one indeed. So that's just so far where we are.
days to talk to different patients, different individuals, both people that are about to donate their kidneys, people that have donated their kidneys. We've spoken to a dad who has been fighting, battling with the disease for 3 years. His son was diagnosed when he was 13, now his son is 16. We've seen people on dialysis, we've seen their struggles, we've heard their struggles. And I can say that this disease is, we've seen the different faces of the disease. And we've seen that these are human beings, these are learned Nigerians, these are people that have families, that have friends, that have a job, they are not miscreants, they are not homeless people, these are responsible individuals. And so it tells you that this disease does not respect anybody. It tells you that it is time for us to wake up. I remember when HIV came, people say hearing about HIV. I remember how the government decided that, okay, this is a burden that people should not suffer by themselves. So chronic kidney disease is a burden. It's a massive burden. For example, the man that has a son that has CKD, chronic kidney disease, he has told his older son to stay back home while he sources for funds to send him to the university. Now, if that is not a burden, then I don't know what is. Somebody has to give up his university education because his younger brother is sick, and his younger brother being sick is not his fault at all. So it tells you that it is not fair that these people should suffer by themselves. And from everything you hear, they depend on their families, they depend on the church, they depend on the little savings they have. They're not so, even if you're a very rich Nigerian, somehow wherever you're parking that money, it will definitely finish. If you're spending that kind of money on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on your dialysis, on your treatment, even after transplant, you need to buy medications. It tells you that it's time for us as a country to come together and support these people. It's time for us to join our hands and say, no, chronic kidney disease cannot keep affecting everyone. Let them not feel that they're by themselves, because from everything I've heard throughout this documentary, it's like they're on their own. Nobody gives, sorry for my language, a damn about what is going on with them. So it's time for us to come together. This disease is a serious problem, and it is on the rise. It is on the rise. It's not backing down. It is on the rise. As long as there's the rise of hypertension, there's diabetes, there's the rise of obesity, there's the rise of herbal medications, there's the rise of bleaching, using bleaching cream. This disease is going to be on the rise. So it is time for us to come together, work together, and see how we can help these people. And this brings me to what is called the Kidney Care Access Initiative. Now, the Kidney Care Access Initiative is something I sat one year and I told myself, I have worked in a kidney center for over 5 years, and I have seen what these patients go through in terms of finances. In terms of you call somebody, you've not seen the person in 2 weeks for dialysis, you call the person is breathless at home, but he or she cannot come to the hospital because they don't have money for dialysis. So Kidney Care Access Initiative is a foundation that invests in kidney care. So we look at patients that cannot afford their treatment, their kidney care treatment, and we tailor those funds to those patients. We're hoping to get an international attention concerning this. We're hoping that the government will come with some sort of package, to help these patients. We're hoping that the health maintenance organizations will also come with some sort of package to help patients on dialysis. Is a lifetime thing. There's no stopping about dialysis. It's a lifetime thing. And even if you do kidney transplant, you need drugs to keep that kidney so that your body does not reject that kidney. I'm trying as much as possible to talk to the understanding of a layman so that we understand the seriousness of this disease. I might want to go highfalutin, scientific and everything. I will not pass my message. Before I'm a doctor, I'm a female, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. If I cannot do something about it, then I won't be able to sleep at night, because people die every day. Just today, I was talking to one of my colleagues, and we're expecting somebody from Lagos. She's been calling me that she wants her husband to do transplant, so I referred her to a hospital that does transplants in Abuja. And my colleague just told me, didn't I know that her husband has died? I was like, well, I spoke to this woman last month, and they were still looking for a donor. They were still looking for family members that could donate. At that point in time, I was broken. I have a classmate, a secondary school classmate, who died recently. He's a promising officer in the military. He has a son. He just died of chronic kidney disease. So there are people close to me that are dying from this disease. And it's sad that this disease is not like malaria, where you go over the counter and you get anti-malarials and you're okay. This is a technical disease. We've seen the dialysis machines, we see how it works. You know, there are even the hemodialysis, there are even machines called the hemodiafiltration that is even higher than hemodialysis. Those ones are even more expensive. People spend between 25 and 30,000 every day for dialysis, and you're supposed to have dialysis 3 times in a week. You've not talked about your medications. You've not talked about the other medications that you use for your other diseases like diabetes, hypertension, HIV, whatever it is. Patients that have chronic kidney disease, they need a voice. And I'm hoping that this will give them a voice. I'm hoping that somebody out there would say, yes, it is time for us to begin to advocate. And I am an advocator for prevention. We've heard what the specialists have talked about. Things we need to look out for. Things we need to do in moderation. Things we need to avoid. It's a disease that can be prevented. It's not like, it's a disease that can be prevented. So I am an advocate for preventive medicine. So yes, we have patients that are really suffering from this disease. They need our help, but we need to get the word out there that this is real, so that you do not fall into that category where you now begin to ask me for help. How long do you want to ask for help? After a while, people will give up because they also have their own life to deal. They also have their own expenses, their own bills to pay. So I am hoping that this would open our eyes, so that we'll channel our money better. A society that is healthy is definitely wealthy. Thank you.
We've been given an option of transplant, and it's supposed to allow you function better. I want to function better. I don't want to be stuck in one